माइक ऑन कर दिया?
लेजर कहाँ से? लेजर
सर आप इससे ही कर लेंगे, शिफ्ट इससे हो जाएगा चेंज।
लास्ट टाइम नहीं बोल रहा
कैसे बोला था हम लोग? बोलो पीपीटी।
लेजर लगा दूंगा।
नहीं इससे हो जाएगा सर, ये एरो की से आगे भी चल जाएगा।
नहीं लेजर पॉइंट आउट के लिए कितने लोग आए कुछ पता चला?
So we have started getting the replies to the quiz question. Majorly people have replied 2, but we also have a response as 3. So let's see what's the right answer is during the webinar. You can keep posting your answers in the chat box section.
Pusha?
The question was, how many numbers are there when you measure BP? Blood pressure is measured in how many numbers? So we are just 1 minute away from starting our webinar today. Some more answers, everyone from the audience. You can share your answers. Those who have joined just now, I'll repeat the question. Blood pressure or BP is measured in how many numbers? Option A, 2, option B, 3, option C, 0, and option 4, 4. Okay, so we have equal number of answers for option 2 and option 3. You will get to know the right answer during the webinar today.
ठीक है।
Okay, so we have the majority answers, and that is option 2 that I can see in the chat box section. Few people have also answered option 3. Okay, let's see what's the right answer is during the webinar. Just getting a quick heads up from our panel. Dr. Sanjay, Ms. Vanshika, if we are okay to go live now to start the webinar.
By the way, I was out. What was the question basically?
So the question was, in how many numbers blood pressure is measured?
Okay, that's fine.
So the options were 2, 3, 0, and 4. So
Okay.
majority of the people have given response as 2.
Okay.
But let's see what the right answer is during the webinar. We'll get to learn from you all. So we will now be starting with the webinar. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Salamu Alaikum, and a very fresh good afternoon. This is Sanghamitra leading the chronic condition program at Mera Doc, and I will be your host for today. So as you all are aware, Mera Doc is a 24/7 holistic tech-enabled healthcare delivery platform with family physicians as gatekeepers of the entire healthcare ecosystem. Today, we are here in this webinar to know better about hypertension. And for this, I would also like to thank MedTalks and Dr. KK Agarwal's team for supporting us. In a world where knowledge about hypertension is limited, we want to empower individuals to take control of their well-being. And for this, we have with us today Colonel Dr. Sanjay Kumar Singh, who has specialization in family medicine and is currently the head clinical services at Mera Doc. Dr. Sanjay has 32 plus years of experience as medical officer and administrator and has served in various hospitals of armed forces all over India. Dr. Sanjay has also been a pioneer of medical mission in Afghanistan. So with this, we welcome Dr. Sanjay to today's webinar.
Thank you so much.
So, we also have with us dietitian Ms. Vanshika Mathur, who has specialization in nutrition and dietetics and has been taking care of different dietary needs of our users across streams. We also welcome Ms. Vanshika to platform today and for joining us in this webinar. So
Thank
with
you so
this,
much, ma'am.
we start today's webinar. If anyone has any questions during the webinar, if you have any questions, you can start posting those in the chat box section and we will take up all your questions towards the end. हम webinar के end में आप सभी के सारे सवालों का जवाब देंगे. आप अपने questions webinar के दौरान chat box में share कर सकते हैं. So with this, I hand over to Dr.
Thank you, Sangha ma'am, and a very good evening to everyone, to our listener. Today's by our Meradoc team that we should deliver a webinar on hypertension. And am I audible? Okay.
Yes,
So basically, hypertension or high blood pressure. The name is same. We call it hypertension, but actually this is a high blood pressure. So high blood pressure, I have written here is a silent killer. I have written here is a silent killer because most of us are suffering with the hypertension, but we don't know. Till the stage this blood pressure reaches at that limit where it causes some symptoms and some problem in our body. So till then, we are not aware, but it is silently aggravating our every organ of our body is being affected by this high blood pressure, and only we come to know whenever we get it measured by or we go to some doctor for some other reason like for fever, for common cold and some disease. When we go there and then we come to know that we do have hypertension also. So this is basically only diagnosed when it is measured. When it is not measured, it is not being diagnosed. So that's why it is leading to it is a leading cause of silent killer, we can say. And I'll tell you one thing more. This hypertension, the burden is so much all over the globe that nearly 30% of the adults are being affected. And in India also, nearly 1 out of 2 adults, they are suffering with hypertension. And 1 out of 4 have only their condition controlled. I mean to say that even if they have been diagnosed with hypertension, they are on a medication, but not taking proper care, not taking regularly the medications, because there are so many myths also. Sometimes even I see in the OPD also when the patient comes to us that doctor, my BP is fine. So should I continue my medication? You know, BP is fine with the medication, and you have to take medication so that it should be controlled always. So but if you will stop the medication, it will harm your body. So the thing is that what I told you, nearly 1 out of 4 have not controlled their condition. If they are because of myths or because of so many regions, they are not continuing with medication, not continuing adhering with the diets, not adhering with the lifestyle which changes the blood pressure. So they are continuing with those high blood pressure. So with this, I'll just hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
So here, if you can see, I have given the data of World Health Organization that over 1.3 billion adults are affected, and 46% is a very high figure. 46% are unaware that they are having a hypertension, and the complications I will tell you slowly. What it is causing in our body. It is affecting almost all of the organs. Basically, the more concern is heart. Basically, and it causes myocardial infarction. That is a very popularly known as a heart attack. And stroke, that means there is a hemorrhage in the brain, and that leads to coma and that loss of consciousness. And another is aneurysm, dementia means there is a loss of memory. These things I will be covering when I will be talking about the basically the complications. So to know you, the hypertension means there is a raised pressure in your blood vessels. You can imagine your blood vessel like a pipe. When it is coming from a tank, suppose the water is coming from a tank through the pipes. The same, the heart is throwing the blood all over the body through the blood vessels, which is like the pipes. And these pipes are continuously, you can see when there is a high blood pressure, they are continuously on you can see they are continuously on strain. That is stress and strain they are bearing these blood vessels. And blood pressure, this is measured into the uh, two parts. Basically, the upper part is called systolic blood pressure. Systolic means when the heart contracts, the pressure which is generated in the blood vessel is called systolic blood pressure, and that is the upper reading of your blood pressure. And that normally is 120 millimeter of Hg. And the lower is the lower reading, which you can see here is the 80. This is when your heart is relaxing. In on every beat, the heart is contracting, and in between it is relaxing. So there are two types of pressure is being generated. One, when it is pushing the blood throughout the body, that is systolic blood pressure, and that is equivalent to 120 millimeter of Hg. And when it is relaxing, the pressure is 80 millimeter Hg. When the blood pressure raises from this level more than 120, and the lower blood pressure, the diastolic pressure, raises more than 80, then it is a matter of concern. Then we label it as the patient is having a hypertension, high blood pressure. And the the classification is different, whether they have a borderline hypertension, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. These are all the academic interests basically. But for your knowledge, anything above this is a hypertension, which you need to be checked by any doctor. So with this also I will explain you, there is always a diurnal variation. What is the meaning of diurnal variation? That every time, uh, like morning, afternoon, evening, night, after taking meals, after going for a walk, sitting in the bed, laying down on the bed, the pressure changes. But these pressure will be varying from maybe somebody is having 120, so it may vary from 104 to 120 or 122, but not never will be more than 130 systolic, and never will be more than 90, more than 90 systolic when it is labeled as the hypertension. So how to diagnose? So you must have seen that we usually measure in the upper arm. This blood pressure is being measured in the upper arm. Basically, the every artery has slight difference in the blood pressure, but it is close to our heart, this upper arm, and we measure here the blood pressure. So anything, the upper blood pressure reading, if it is more than or equal to 140, that is systolic blood pressure, and the lower reading, which is diastolic, if it is greater than 90 millimeter Hg, this is a matter of concern. Then you must check your blood pressure ambulatory at home, maybe by the automatic BP machine or say, and you have to take frequent readings, and then you for 3 to 5 days, and then with these readings you can present to your doctor. And whenever you get this blood pressure more than this, at least go to once to a doctor before going for ambulatory BP checking. So here I have written how to when to monitor. You have to take at least 3 readings in a day, morning, afternoon, or in the night, or at least if you cannot take 3 readings, you have to take 2 readings, morning and evening, and you measure your heart rate accordingly also. And if you have any symptoms, you note down with your blood pressure. If you do have any symptoms, you note down that, so that you can show it to your doctor. Now we will talk about who is at risk to develop hypertension. there are certain category of people who are at more risk or in comparison to others to develop the hypertension. And they are basically who they have a family history of high blood pressure. If their mother, father, grandmother, father, brothers, sisters, siblings, if they are having a high blood pressure, there are the chances that they might develop a high blood pressure. If they have any cardiomyopathy, means any disease related to heart and circulation, they might develop hypertension. If they are diabetic, they are also in the risk of developing hypertension. And one is the age also. If somebody is having age more than 55, they are no doubt they are at a higher risk of developing hypertension. Reason being, this is, there are two three reasons for this. Basically, uh, with the age in our body, there are a lot of changes are going on. What is happening? Whatever meal which we are eating each day, this usually compromise of your carbohydrate, protein, and fat and minerals. So before I talk about this meal, I'll tell you one thing. Like, if you're to just to make you understand, suppose you have an earning of rupees 1 lakh in a month, and your expenditure is 80,000. So this 20,000 you will be depositing in your fixed deposit or maybe recurring deposit or like that. So whenever there is a need, you can utilize this money. Similar way, in our body, the everything whatever we are eating, be it is a carbohydrate, be it is a protein, be it is a fat, it is being converted into the glucose to give us the energy. Our God has made our body in such a manner that everything is being converted to the glucose. And suppose your energy requirement is 2000 kilocalorie in a day, and you are consuming 2200 kilocalorie. So this 200 extra kilocalorie which you have consumed, it will be converted into the fat, and it will be deposited in your adipose tissues and your blood vessels lining also. It will be deposited over there, and which we call it the atherosclerosis, when it is being deposited in blood vessels. So these are basically for those, whenever you will be starving, you are not taking meal, you are on a fast or you are starving, then this fat will automatically will be converted back into the glucose and for the energy. So God has created in that way. So if you are with the age, there is some amount of fat is being deposited in our blood vessels also, in our other organs also. And this is the reason we are developing the high blood pressure also. Somebody who is not enough exercising, because the exercise will burn your fat which is being deposited, so then they are at high risk of developing blood pressure. Similarly, the smokers and the heavy, if you are a heavy drinker, then also there is a chance that you will develop the hypertension. Too much of salty food, because salt also contributes to high blood pressure. So whenever you are taking much more salt, this will this will may lead to, if you are at a risk of developing hypertension, you might develop early hypertension. I have just shown here the. I'll request you to focus first here on this circulation diagram. Hope my laser is visible on the screen. So basically, heart is pumping the blood throughout the body, and it is the oxygenated blood which is shown here in the red, and then deoxygenated blood is coming to the lungs, and from lungs it is coming again to the heart after being oxygenated, and then it is being circulated in our body. So you can see here on the left side of the diagram. So any blood vessel, major blood vessel, where which is in close proximity to the heart, they are having a high blood pressure. And as soon as we are going down at the periphery, the blood vessel becomes smaller and smaller. They become small arteries over there, and that there the blood pressure is slightly lower. But if your overall blood pressure, suppose here is which is required 120 by 80, but it is coming here is 180 by 200. So this will also cause here also the high blood pressure, and this might rupture also. And when it will rupture, it will cause a stroke in the brain, and because the blood will ooze over there, and this will get on the various areas of the brain which is concerned with various functions, and then which we call the stroke. So this is the way why it is important to reduce to control our BP. Just I wanted to let you know that this is the reason we should control our BP in a normal range, basically. Here, if you can see this is the lining of blood vessels. The blood is flowing into these blood vessels, and it is under high pressure. And when it is under high pressure, there is stretching of there are always the lining. The cells are over there, so these cells are being stretched, and then there is a damage of endothelial cells. This damage, how this damage reacts, I will tell you in the next slide. You can see here the blood is flowing normally here, but here there is a cut. Before going into the cut, I'll just let you know the God created in such a manner that wherever there is a injury, cut is there on our body somewhere, the blood starts oozing, and it after some time the clot forms over there automatically. To seal that blood flow should stop. Similar manner, the body doesn't require our inner system also. So whenever there will be some due to high blood pressure, there is damage to the endothelium or inner lining of the cells. So there the blood oozes, because all this is supplied by the blood. So the blood start oozing from these cells also. And in the protective mechanism, the body which usually forms a clot, they start making clot here to seal this oozing of the blood, and these platelets are being deposited here. So whenever there is a space, the blood is passing through that. But if this clot is such a big that the blood cannot flow to other part, that it leads to the deficiency of supply of the blood to the other part of which is being supplied beyond this line. So this happens in a heart attack, because in myocardial infarction there is a clot forms inside the blood supplying arteries, the heart. And then it is the heart, the part of the muscle which is not being received with the blood, lies in the brain. Same manner, if you can see here, so when there is a damage in the endothelium cells, these balloons out. We call it aneurysm, and this balloons out with a very thin lining, and it can rupture at any time. It happens in the stroke also, which rupture at any time and lead to hemorrhage. So these are basically reason that why we should control our blood pressure. The same I have shown here. It is being the artery is being clogged with the blood, the clot, or maybe due to the atherosclerosis, whatever is reason. So the heart is not being supplied by the other part of heart is not being supplied by the blood, and this is causing myocardial infarction, the heart attack. So now with this, I'll tell you we have two types of risk factor basically. One we can modify and one we cannot modify. The one we cannot modify is age. We cannot modify because everybody has to grow older. And if you have a family history, it is not going to be changed, because your parents, your siblings, your gene, whatever gene you are carrying will be the same at every time. So this we cannot modify. But of course, we can modify this. If you are having a high weight, obesity, you are taking high salt, you have a sedentary lifestyle, you can exercise more. If you are having tendency to take, you are having a type A personality. I meant to say type A personality is those who think a lot for even a trivial matter. You take a lot of stress. So you should learn to not to take stress at any point, because this will cause not only hypertension but lot all sorts of disarrangement, because there will be disharmonal hormones will be dysregulated in our body, and secretions will be dysregulated. This will all lead to lot of complication, lot of symptoms in our body. So smoking alcohol also is a modifiable risk factor which we can quit, and we can control our blood pressure. So blood pressure, I'll tell you, is these are usually two types. One is the primary, where usually we call it essential hypertension. This is most common. This is the reason is not basically this is due to the atherosclerosis, which I told you earlier, that the fat is being deposited in our blood vessels, and this is narrowing our blood vessel basically, and then it is leading to hypertension. So this is the one. And the other is the secondary hypertension. Secondary hypertension basically occurs in 10% of cases usually. And secondary, it is when it is secondary to any problem in your body organ. Basically, when there is a problem in your kidney, we call it renovascular disease. And when there is a problem in your kidney, that it will cause hypertension. Then we call it secondary hypertension, because when we treat those conditions which are causing problem in kidney, then your hypertension is controlled. Then you may not be required a permanent on medication, and if that has been controlled, or then your blood pressure will be controlled. Similarly, on the kidney, there is a gland called adrenal. If there is some changes, then it causes hypertension. These are all adrenal gland related: primary hyperaldosteronism, pheochromocytoma, and Cushing syndrome. These are all adrenal gland related. Another is hyperthyroidism. So hyperthyroidism also one of the cause of hypertension. And another is obstructive sleep apnea. If you have you are obese, you are snoring all the time, you are not able to sleep properly, and because of devoid of sleep, you may have a high blood pressure. Certain medication also, the steroid, OCP not for 1 or 2 doses or maybe 1 or 2 months. OCP basically, if you take OCP is basically oral contraceptive pills. So if you take oral contraceptive pills more than 10 years regularly or 15 years, then only it is responsible for high blood pressure. Similarly, some NSAID and some drugs like cocaine, all these things. So I will tell you because we generally suffer with the primary hypertension, and there is no symptom basically in the primary hypertension. So that's why it's a silent killer. Secondary hypertension, due to secondary to some other organ damage, which I told you, have some symptoms. So it is related to these symptoms, which is shown here, is due to the secondary hypertension. This is for the academic interest basically. So two more things I will just let you know. I'll let you in this slide basically. Two more things are this. One is the hypertensive emergency and hypertensive urgency. We call it when there is a high blood pressure, more than 180 systolic, or more equal or more than or equal to 120 diastolic. It is called hypertensive urgency. When there is no any other organ damage. When it is associated with some other organ damage, it is called hypertensive emergency. Like if it is associated with a heart attack or some kidney failure or maybe in stroke in the brain, then it is called hypertensive emergency. Otherwise, we label it a hypertensive urgency. So whenever you are being diagnosed with hypertension, we recommend some tests. We recommend some blood tests, some thyroid tests, some electrolyte and urine, ECG, heart echocardiography, ultrasound, all these things we recommend, which we must get it done. And that I will suggest you, even after the age of 30, 35, one should get this test also done to know whether they are having some derangement in the body or not. We should get this test done also. So how to manage blood pressure? I'm not talking here about any drugs basically. I'm talking about which you can do without any drugs basically. So there are three principles of control your blood pressure. One is the diet. You should take a proper diet, means whatever the calories required, you should take certain calorie. That we have a dietitian here today. She will tell you more about the diet, what we should take, what we should not take. But basically, the diets, you should take a balanced diet in a manner. Suppose if you require 2000 kilocalories, you should take at least 100 or 200 calories less than that. And you should exercise also well. You should go for at least 30-minute walk every day for 6 days in a week. It is must basically. If you can have a brisk walk, or if you cannot go a brisk walk, you should go for swimming, cycling, all these exercises. This will help you to reduce your blood pressure, help you to reduce the burn your fat inside the body, help you to reduce the atherosclerosis in the body, so that there is no hypertension. The atherosclerosis, which I told you, there is a fat deposition always in your blood vessels, and this will be reduced with your exercises. And if you are already a case of hypertension, then you must take a proper medication with your whatever the doctor have advised to you, and you should continue with the medication always. You should not stop it abruptly, and you should take this medication always on every day on time, and on fixed time basically. If you are taking two times, don't take like today I have taken morning dose at 1 o'clock and the evening dose at 6 o'clock, as per my convenience. But you should take at the interval of 12 hours if you are taking two times. If you are taking only single time also, that gives you protection for 24 hours. And then if you have taken your morning dose, suppose at 6 you take at 8 o'clock with the breakfast. So every day you try to take at 8 o'clock. You keep your medication at your dining table so that you can take it every day at the same time. And this always have effect, because if you will be taking medication on time, this 24-hour cycle of medicine flow is maintained, and your blood pressure will be controlled effectively in this manner. So thank you. I think lifestyle modification, I have already just spoke to you. Drugs we are not talking about, because self-medication is always harmful. And in hypertension, without any doctor consultation, don't try to take any BP medicine, because I have seen people taking over the counter also, going to the pharmacist and asking, I have a high blood pressure, give me the medication, or my mother is taking this, so I will be also taking this because her BP is controlled, and I developed hypertension and I will start the same medication. Because every body is different, and every age is different, and we check a lot of things before prescribing any particular medication. For your mother, maybe that medication is suitable. For you, that medication may not be suitable. So at least consult your doctor before any taking any medication for any hypertension. So thank you very much. I have finished about on hypertension. If you have any question, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay, for explaining us in such detail about hypertension, risk factors, and the ways to manage it. Before we move on to the next part of the session today, in which our other speaker in the panel, dietitian Vanshika Mathur, would be covering about dietary management, we have few questions, sir, that we would like to take up now.
Please.
So the first question is, can fasting cause hypertension?
See, fasting will usually not cause any hypertension, because you are not taking anything that time. And basically, I told you there is always a diurnal variation. So in the morning, the blood pressure will be different. In the afternoon, when you have a quite good sleep in the morning, your blood pressure will be at the lower side basically. When you have traveled to your office, and then your blood pressure will be different at that time. At the end of the evening, the blood pressure will be different. Night, when you are relaxing at home after taking dinner, that time the blood pressure will be different. But these are always will be in that normal limit. But there will be slight 10 to 15 millimeter actually of diurnal variation. Similarly, if you are fasting, your blood pressure will be at a lower side only. But if you have not slept well in the night, or you are fasting, that your blood pressure might be at a higher side also. So there is always a link with your relaxation in the body basically, for any blood pressure reading. If you have relaxed night, your blood pressure will be normal. If you consumed alcohol last night, suppose you have consumed alcohol, so your BP in the morning will be high. So even if you have not taken medication, you have not taken food also, you are fasting also, your BP will be slightly on the higher side. This is because of alcohol, not because of fasting. So it depends upon a lot of things basically.
Thank you, sir, for explaining in such detail about the answer. The next question, sir, is, hi, please tell me main reason of high cholesterol.
See, the main reason of high cholesterol is our diet pattern and not having exercise basically. So I told you in my lecture also कि whatever we are eating is being converted into the glucose, and on the amount of the glucose which is not being utilized every day in our body is being deposited into the fat and cholesterol or whatever it is. So if you are consuming a bad fat, basically junk food, most of the time, if you are consuming a junk food or saturated fat, I mean to say, like fried items, much more fried items, so these will accumulate more cholesterol in your body. Lipid profile will be deranged, not this will be the solely reason that you may have a deranged lipid profile in your body. But sometimes I will tell you one thing more you should be aware. There are so many things for lipid metabolism in our body. For the cholesterol, we have lots of enzymes in our body, which uh, which is responsible for various part of our lipid profile, like cholesterol, triglyceride, LDL cholesterol. You must have heard HDL cholesterol, VLDL, uh, lipoproteins. These are all things. So these are sometimes what is happening in some people. There are some enzymes are deficient in the body genetically, and those peoples are having one particular category of the lipid profile raised in their body. There you can find that cholesterol is normal, the only LDL is going up, or maybe only lipoprotein is going up. So these are only basically, or you can find only VLDL is going up. So they must be having some genetically deficient enzyme which is being which metabolizes these lipids, and because of that reason this is being accumulated. But if you can take a healthy lifestyle, that you can exercise well, and you can burn whatever fat you are consuming, whatever calorie you are consuming, if you can burn, and then, or if you will not consume junk food or fried food, your body will not have high cholesterol and lipid profile. I can assure you that. uh, I will tell you the example, because I do have a very strong history of hypertension in my family. My father, my mother, everybody, my younger sister, you can say, she has also hypertension, and my elder sister, elder brother, they all have hypertension. But touch wood, I don't have hypertension so far, because because I know I am having a high risk factor, but then I am also consuming the diet which is required, and I am exercising well also every day, so that my hypertension, which is genetically will come, and lipid profile, in the sense also the lipid which will be deposited in my body, will be after maybe after a certain age. I may delay it by the lifestyle for 20 or 25 years, or maybe 30 years, or I may not have at all also, if I be able to do the exercise throughout my life, and if I'll be sticking to my diet throughout, I mean to say.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing that example so that we can understand better. There are a few questions in the chat box section which are very related to the personal things. I would request that if you have any such questions, you can reach out to us directly on Miradoc platform. We would be really happy to have your consultation with the doctors who can understand in detail about the issue that you are going through and suggest you accordingly. Because here in this webinar, since the doctor would not be able to get the complete medical history of yours, it would be difficult for him to assess and comment anything on that. So I can see Mr. Amit Srivastav has some issues related to BP, and I can also see Mr. Pradeep Kumar wants to have a diet chart. So we would be very shortly sharing a number in the chat box section in which you can reach out to us directly. आप डायरेक्टली मेरा डॉक प्लेटफॉर्म से कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं, हमारे डॉक्टर्स के साथ कंसल्ट कर सकते हैं, और हम डेफिनेटली आपको एक सॉल्यूशन प्रोवाइड करेंगे आपकी पूरी मेडिकल हिस्ट्री को देखते हुए. We'll take a few more questions and then we would be starting with the next session of Ms. Vanshika Mathur. So another question, Dr. Sanjay, is in hypertension, why the blood come from nose?
See, I told you when I have gone through my slides, there are different calibers of blood vessels basically in our body. So you must have seen that the closer to the heart, the blood vessel is broader, and there the pressure is different. And when you go towards the periphery part of your body, maybe tip of your fingers, tip of your foot fingers or foot, the blood vessels there are smaller in caliber basically. Their diameter is smaller. They are smaller blood vessels. Similarly, in the nose, also in the nose area, we have capillaries over there. So if you have a high blood pressure, your pressure which is required to be here is 40 milliliter Hg at the periphery. If it is raised throughout your body, suppose you are having 180 by 100 millimeter Hg blood pressure, so here it will be also not 40, it will be around 60 or 66 or 70 millimeter Hg. So this causes rupture in your capillaries blood. So when there will be rupture, the blood will be oozed from your that blood vessels in the nose, and this is called epistaxis. The nose, there will be oozing of blood from the nose, and what we do at that time also, even the body normal mechanism also. I told you, the wherever there is oozing of blood is there, the clot forms so that it seals off that oozing of blood. This is automatically system in our body. So in epistaxis also sometimes it seals off after oozing, but if it is not being sealed, then we pack the nose, and then we check the blood pressure and we try to lower the blood pressure so that the bleeding from the nose should be stopped. So this is the reason, and it's a very good question. I can say somebody asked a very good question because this is all related to your high blood pressure. Because in the periphery, your the arteries which are there, they are under stress of high blood pressure and they are being stretched every time, and ultimately they rupture after stretching, and this is causing oozing of the blood.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for explaining the scientific concept behind the answer. We will now be starting with the next session in the panel. And I can see there are a few more questions. Please don't get disheartened. After the session with Ms. Vanshika Mathur is completed, we would be taking up your questions as well. So I'll quickly bring up my screen. So I hope, Ms. Vanshika, you're able to see the screen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much,
Over
ma'am.
to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's my immense pleasure to be here as a speaker and representing Mirada. Good evening, everyone. I hope my audio is audible to everyone. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Well, today I'll not talk about the introduction or risk factors about the talk about introduction or risk factors about hypertension, as this section is already being covered by Dr. Sanjay. I'll directly start with the dietary management of hypertension. Sangamam, please change the slide to slide number 4. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Now, before going to aware you about the food choices one can make, I would like to tell you about the reason behind choosing it. So, there are certain principles of diet that one should be taken as consideration to manage hypertension. The first and the most common one is to take low salt or a low sodium diet. As we all know that whenever we'll have sodium in our diet, it leads to water retention, which is basically increase in the volume of water in our blood. So similarly, whenever we take more salt or more sodium in our diet, simultaneously it increases more volume of water in our blood and make it harder for our heart to pump blood, which leads to which leads to high blood pressure. Similarly, the second principle tells us about the taking about to take a low fat diet. Uh, as we all know, there are two types of fat. One is good fat, and the second one is bad fat. Usually, we always thought that the fat will have it from oil. The fat will have it from the sources like oil, ghee, etc. is bad fat or are not good for our health. But that is not the truth. But the bad fat is something, the extra amount of fat not being absorbed by our body and are deposited in different parts of body, which includes our arteries as well. That restricts the blood flow and leads to high blood pressure. So this is the reason we'll recommend low fat diet to the high blood pressure patients to prevent deposition of more fat in the arteries and to decrease the high blood pressure. Similar to fat, the third principle is to take low caloric diet. As in case of obesity or weight gain, there is a chance of high blood pressure. So, usually, whenever we'll have any food in higher amount than usual, it leads to weight gain. But caloric intake is something it leads to more weight gain than any other nutrient does. So the main reason to consider caloric amount or to take low caloric diet is to maintain our body weight. With and Also there is a addition of fruits, and the diet is restrictive to some nutrients, maybe because of caloric restriction, fat restriction, or salt restriction. So these are all are the some basic dietary management principles and reason that one can easily adapt to manage high blood pressure. Sangha ma'am, please change the slide. Thank you. Now let's talk about the food that one should avoid or have it in a restricted amount. As listed in this slide, uh, fried food, baked foods like biscuit, cakes, or packaged foods like chips, etc., etc. Uh, the reason behind avoiding these foods or taking them in a restricted amount is these all are having a high amount of salt and fat, and sometimes they are having high calories as well than usual. So how these calories, salt and fat intake uh, leads to hypertension, I have already talked about that. So this is the reason we should avoid them. Now uh, now let's talk about the dietary approach to stop hypertension, that is the dash diet. uh, Thank you, ma'am. So in simple words, it is a balanced diet with consideration of a portion size, or can say a serving size, including all food groups, and having low fat, salt and caloric diet. As it is similar to balanced diet, it is that much flexible that one can choose it to prevent high blood pressure and many other medical conditions without losing their taste and choices. As you can look at the slides, ma'am, please change the slide. Thank you. As you can see, dash that won't restrict anything or any food product completely. It's only restrict their portion size or serving size, and recommend to include all any food product from all food groups. Like if we'll talk about grains, uh, dash recommends 6 to 8 servings of grains, like which includes chapatis, rice, pasta, breads, etc., etc., per day. Similarly, in case of vegetables, it recommends 4 to 5 servings per day for an adult. Or accordingly, all the food groups have been taken as a consideration according to the person's uh, bp range and many other chronic conditions, etc., etc. So ma'am, please change the slide. So in case of poultry, so we'll consider lean poultry because red meat have a higher amount of fat, or can say a higher amount of saturated fat, which is more can say not good for our hypertension patient. And if they have cholesterol as well, it will lead to more problems or more chronic condition for with that. So with that, I would like to tell you about that. Uh, in hypertension, you just don't need to only restrict yourself from many things, but you have to manage your portion size, your serving size. You have to include other varieties of food, every variety of food, seasonal foods, so that you can enjoy the taste of the foods and choices you would like to have, and can manage your high blood pressure. So, with that, I would like to end my presentation, and hope you have got what I have tried to convey. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or queries, you can ask. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Vanshika. And before we go on to take up the remaining questions now, here's a quick surprise for you all. As you can see over the screen, just to let you all know and make you all aware that if you are facing any such issues, any hypertension or hypotension, high BP or low BP issues, Miradoc has an exclusive healing heart program for you. You can reach out to us and get connected with a family physicians team who will help you completely in managing your health condition. We have specific uh, diet planned by nutritionists, medical cover by cardiologist. There are yoga classes, psychologist reviews. There's complete hand holding with respect to your progress calls, and there are ultimate discounts on lab tests and medicines, along with special offer of GP consults for your family members. So you can reach out to us on the number shown over the screen, or you can visit our website. The email address is already given over the screen. You can reach out to us. We would be really happy to help you all with any kind of health issues that you are facing. Miradoc provides holistic, patient-centric, and personalized wellness plans, and it is designed to help you regulate and manage long-term health issues. We have easy access to family physicians, top specialists, nutritionists, psychologists, and yoga experts. One great thing is that our team of experts work on the root cause of your health issues with high touch interventions to deliver outcome driven, sustainable results with positive behavioral changes. So, with this, we come to an end of today's webinar, and we would be now taking up all the questions that were left. So, I'll just take up the questions from where we had left last time. So, the question that we have is, consuming black or rock is better or same as sea salt? The question to our panel, please. Black salt or rock salt is better, or is it same as sea salt?
Well, ब्लैक सॉल्ट या रॉक सॉल्ट हम लोग तब यूजुअली लेते हैं जब हमारा हाइपोटेंशन का केस होता है, जब हमारा लो ब्लड प्रेशर का केस होता है. सो इट इज नॉट सिमिलर टू सी सॉल्ट, बट येस हम लोग का अगर अगर इसको भी हम ज़्यादा अमाउंट में ले रहे हैं या अगर हम यूजुअली ले रहे हैं तो वो हमारे सिमिलरली इम्पैक्ट करेगा. उसके अंदर भी सोडियम अमाउंट, जैसे अगर हम सेंधा नमक की बात करें या फिर हमारे जो लो सोडियम सॉल्ट जो आजकल मार्केट में होती हैं उनके बारे में बात करें तो उसके कंसिडरेशन में इसका अमाउंट सोडियम का अमाउंट थोड़ा ज़्यादा होता है. तो इसलिए हम हाइपरटेंशन के केस में भी इसको कंसीडर नहीं करेंगे. हाइपोटेंशन के केस में हम इसको कंसीडर कर सकते हैं और ये सिमिलर, yes we can say that ये similar होती है but not exactly to sea salt.
Just one thing I want to add here.
Yes, sir, please.
One medical thing, basically. Whenever there is comparison of black salt, rock salt, and sea salt, what we say, I'll tell you, in our country, we all are deficient of iodine. Hypothyroidism is very common in our country. For that reason, the government has started a program in which there is the salt is always adulterated with iodine. We call it iodized salt. So you must have seen, actually, I don't know about you, but when I was kid, I have seen, we used to bring salt from Bori. Whenever you goes to the market, they used to give us a salt after measuring in a paper, and we used to bring that in the home. But nowadays, you have seen the packaged salt properly. It is coming iodized. It is being iodized so that the iodine deficiency should not be there. And the thyroid, it will help in your thyroid disease. A lot of us has having hypothyroidism. So my recommendation to you is, when there is a religious matter, you are taking rock salt for religious day. For that fasting, you may continue, but otherwise you stick to iodized salt. Take in the low amount and stick to iodized salt, sea salt, that is which is being marketed in India nowadays. And if you really want, if you're not very keen to use less salt in your diet, but you want to control your blood pressure, the another salt is coming on the pharmacy, that is called Lona. That is a low sodium salt. It comes by the name of Lona, Lona. So this is low sodium. So you can take that salt also. This will add to your test in the similar manner, but it will give you the less sodium in your diet. So your blood pressure will be controlled in that way. So I just wanted to add this thing, that we should stick to iodized salt.
Thank you. Thank you so much, panel, for sharing that answer wonderfully. So the next question I think is targeted towards you in the panel. The question is, what is the permanent solution to get rid of BP medication?
I told you in my lecture, I think I once again I'm repeating. So a lot of patients come to me and they said, my blood pressure is fine, doctor. Why should I continue with medication? Your blood, when you have a primary hypertension, your BP is not, your medication is not going to be stopped. Likely not going to be stopped. There are some example also, which is just being stopped. And if you have a secondary hypertension, secondary to some other organ disease in your body, maybe in the kidney there is some problem which has been rectified, and then your BP is normal, you need not to take a medication for lifelong that time. Or sometimes it's a disease that it has been cured, but you have to take lifelong medication. That time you cannot stop your medication. So I mean to say, if you are on one BP medicine, or maybe your BP was marginally, and you are exercising well, and you are keeping your diet normal, you are keeping your body weight normal, that there are the chances that we will be able to quit your medication if your BP remains very low with medication. If it is coming in the normal range with medication, your BP medication cannot be stopped. You have to be clear that you have to take. If you will take intermittent, like some patient, what they do, they say, sir, I have taken this week 3 days only BP medicine. Why? 2 days it was fine, so I didn't take. And one day I found it was 160 by 100, then I take, and then I took the medication. This is wrong, because you are stressing your system. You cannot do your control of blood pressure. You cannot do in such a manner. You have to you have to maintain your blood pressure in the range of 120 or to 130 systolic, and 80, in between 80 to 90 diastolic, even if you are hypertensive. If it is going beyond that, then you may require to add another medication to bring your BP in that level. So when you are taking medication, your BP is going to be controlled for 24 hours, maybe up to 36 hours. But it doesn't mean that you will skip your dose. So till the time your doctor doesn't say to quit the medication, please don't quit it. Even if your BP is coming normal, go to your doctor, get your BP checked, and then if he says that you need not, then only you stop. If he says to continue, please continue it.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. Next question, Miss Vanchika. The question is, having everyday non-veg, there will be any problems for heart?
Well, एवरीडे नॉन-वेज का बेसिकली रीज़न ये होता है कि हम, अगर आप स्पेसिफिकली देखें, रेड मीट अगर आप रेगुलरली ले रहे हैं, जो मैंने अपनी स्लाइड में भी आपको बताया था कि रेड मीट के साथ ये रहता है कि उसमें हायर अमाउंट ऑफ सैचुरेटेड फैट अवेलेबल होता है, जो हमारे हार्ट के लिए, कोलेस्ट्रॉल पेशेंट और हाइपरटेंशन या हाइपोटेंशन, कोई भी आप ये प्रॉब्लम लें, ये आपको प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करता है। और नॉट ओनली दैट, और भी क्रॉनिक कंडीशंस में ये दिक्कत करता है। आप उसकी जगह लीन मीट रेकमेंड मैं करती हूँ, लेकिन वो भी ऐसे कि आपकी वीक में ट्वाइस और थ्राइस सर्विंग रहे। अगर आप, जैसे कुछ पर्टिकुलर लोग होते हैं जो जिनके साथ हाइपरटेंशन या हार्ट प्रॉब्लम कोई भी है, लेकिन वो लोग साथ में एक्सरसाइजेस वगैरह काफ़ी कंसीडर करते हैं, और मतलब हैवी एक्सरसाइज वगैरह, फॉर एग्जांपल कुछ लोग बहुत रेयरली लोग जिम वगैरह भी वो होते हैं, तो उनके लिए प्रोटीन इनटेक के लिए वो ज़्यादा रहता है, तो वो उसके लिए हमारे थोड़ी वेरिएशन करते हैं, उसके लिए अमाउंट थोड़ा इंक्रीज होता है, बट वो ज़्यादातर रेकमेंड हम लोग लीन मीट ही करते हैं फिर, बट वो अकॉर्डिंगली करते हैं।
Very nicely said by our dietitian, I think. And see, every day taking non-veg is not harmful if you are taking anything in a limit. I mean to say, it contains a high protein also. So protein, the requirement of your protein is maybe if it is 75 gram, so you cannot afford to take meat every day, 200 gram or 300 gram of meat every day. This will obviously cause you the problem. But if you are taking solely a meat as a protein or solely egg as a protein, then you have to strict your amount, and you can continue with one small piece or two small pieces or one small egg in that way. Even if you will take every day, that will not cause any problem. But you have to measure your calorie, you have to measure your amount. I think so. Anna, Vanshika, what do you say?
Yes, कोई भी चीज अगर एक बैलेंस्ड अमाउंट में है तो वो कभी नुकसान नहीं
कभी
करेगी.
नुकसान नहीं करती है. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So there are so many questions coming up in the chat box section, but since we are running short of time, we would be taking a few more questions for the next few minutes. If your question is not answered right now, please be assured that you can reach out to us on our platform and we would be happy to answer all your questions. The next question is, why does reducing how much salt you eat help prevent high blood pressure, and how does consuming sugar affect high blood pressure? So basically, how eating salt or sodium and sugar affects high blood pressure is the question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please.
For me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you are consuming much more salt in your diet, so basically what is happening, you are taking more sodium along with that, which our dietitian has explained very beautifully, that you are taking more sodium in your diet. And whenever sodium is being absorbed, there is the water molecule is being absorbed with that. But with every molecule of sodium, the water is being coming. So actually you are increasing your volume of blood. So whenever there will be increased volume of blood, your pressure will increase automatically. If the water is flowing through a pipe which is smaller in amount, the pressure will be normal. But if you put more water, the pressure will automatically become increased. The similar way, if your blood volume is increasing, your blood pressure will increase. This leads to not only this, there are so many things. There is, but we cannot basically teach you these. These are basically medical science things, that there is a renin-angiotensin system in our kidney. There is aldosterone system in our body which is being activated, and this is leading to raise high BP. So these things basically require a lot of explanation, which cannot be explained here. And similarly, the sugar, if you will take more sugar also, you are becoming diabetic also, suppose. So this will lead to atherosclerosis, basically the deposition of fat in your blood vessels. And whenever there will be deposition of fat, suppose your suppose in you just imagine a water pipe which was fresh new. It was flowing a blood, it was flowing the water through that. But now your the diameter of that pipe has been become narrowed because of soil or maybe the dirt in the pipe. Then even the same amount of water will go with the more pressure, because it has become narrow. Similar way, your arteries become narrow with the deposition of fat tissue, which we call atherosclerosis, and this leads to hypertension. So this is the reason, if you will take more salt, your blood pressure will increase. If you will take more sugar, it is being converted into the fat, that this will be deposited in your blood vessel, it will increase your blood pressure.
Thank you so much, sir. The last question for today's webinar. So the question is, can gas increase high blood pressure?
I'll say no. Gas doesn't increase any blood pressure. If you have a much more gas, if you are passing flatus, if you are passing, that I will tell you that then you must get checked by your doctor also, because there are so many things for that also. Because then your normal, in our intestine, I will tell you, there is some good bacteria are always there in our intestine, and these bacteria help in lot of things, like lot of toxin to modify, so that this toxin are not being absorbed in our body, and a lot of vitamins are being absorbed through those symbiotic bacteria. And whenever there is this flora is deranged, this normal bacterial colonization, which is essential for our absorption and everything in our intestine, this is being deranged, then more even you may pass more flatus. This can be one reason also. There can be another reason. This is the common reason I told you, but there can be some lot of reason for making much more gas in your body. But if you pass much more gas, at least consult with your doctor, consult to us, so that we can take your history properly, and we should know why you are passing so much of gases, and we can treat you accordingly, because passing much more gas is not also a good sign. And but of course, I'll tell you, this doesn't raises our blood pressure.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. I can see there are very specific questions in the chat box section related to your family's health or related to your specific diet, your medicines. So as shared in the chat box, you can reach out to us on the number 1800-3090-101 and connect with our team. We would be really happy to help you with any of these specific dietary guidance or medical guidance that you need. So with this, we come to an end to today's webinar. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay, Ms. Vanshika, for coming on the panel today and making us aware about different techniques to manage hypertension and how it affects us. We are looking forward to have another session with you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the webinar today. In case you have any feedback, any other questions, you can reach out to us. We would be really happy to serve you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners also.
Thank you so much, ma'am.